Hey guys, so Behemoth just came out earlier this week, and I know a lot of people are struggling with Gate 2. And our party also struggled with Gate 2 on the first day, but we luckily did clear 2 times on the day 1. Now, I've been looking over the VODs for my clear, and also looking back at some of the guides that have been released by Memorizer and ATK to really try to figure out, like, hey, what went wrong in our runs to make it so hard, and what might be some of the issues you guys might be facing out in Pugs. And looking at the VODs, I really came up with a couple of things that really were areas we weren't doing very well, and were probably the reasons why we weren't clearing the raid as smoothly as we should with the amount of gear that we had. And I would bet that maybe a couple of your pugs are going this way because of these issues as well. So I wanted to share those tips and tricks with you guys today. And the first thing that I noticed, and this is really the biggest reason why I think that we were having such a hard time, is because we just weren't doing the raid correctly. There are two main mechanics that go throughout both gates, and I think that our raid, our party, was not doing this very well. And that is going to be the stacks that you get from hitting Behemoth, and also the wing break mechanic. We weren't taking advantage of breaking the wings before they came down for the stagger check. And I'll go into that in detail right now. So this is Memorizer's guide video, and I want you to listen closely to what he says.
Is lethal for back attackers. Again, if you get hit by the skill, the patterns here, you lose the buff stack.
So he talked about the buff stacks.
Buff stack here, this stack.
Right? He talked about the buff stacks here, meaning that it was clearly important enough for him to mention. And he actually mentions this again later in the video.
It just worked, right? Go stick close and attack him one time to get the 1 stack of buff, okay?
So it was very important that he mentioned, like, during when Behemoth is down, this is a free opportunity for you to get stacks of your buff. And I really think that this first area is one of the areas that I really don't think I was paying attention to, and neither was my party. I think that Behemoth, as much as we call it a Trixian dummy or a kind of Unga Bunga boss, we really, at least for now, should not be Unga Bungaing and just attacking and eating attacks. We could kind of treat it a little bit like Hanumatan, where we do get the same buff stacks when we're hitting the boss, and then when we get hit by the boss, we lose those buff stacks. So I think we really need to be a lot more conscious about not getting hit by the Behemoth's attacks and not face tanking everything. That way you can start letting those buff stacks go up and up and up, and be able to get more and more of an attack buff throughout the entire fight. Again, treating it like Hanumatan. Now, the second thing, as I mentioned earlier, really has to do with destroying the wings. And this was through observing, again, how the Koreans were playing this. So this was at the beginning of the Behemoth fight, and one of the wings dropped down. This isn't during the check where the body was broken. So they went in and attacked this side, right?
Attack on phase 2.
And then after that, you see every single person comes from here on the right-hand side over to the left. Pretty much everybody, right? Even this guy who was in the back earlier came over here to attack this wing. And if you notice, they take down the wing down to half HP. Of course, with our gearing, we're probably only taking it down to maybe 25% or something like that. And again, I think this is one of the biggest differences between our runs and what I've been observing in Memo's runs and the other Koreans' runs as well. They really do prioritize these wings whenever they can. And as you can see here, this is when the boss's body breaks.
Right.
Let me mute this real quick. So this is when the boss's body breaks, and you can see it's all the way down here, less than 50% health already. That means they're doing way less to this wing to move to the other side and be able to do both of them a lot faster. And that really is, at the end of the day, why I think a lot of people, including our party, was struggling on breaking the wings, because we just weren't taking advantage of these openings. And you can see here, right? This is my run. And you can see here, the wing pops up. It's completely full HP. And you're like, oh, maybe you went to the other one, right? I go down the other one. It's basically full as well. And this is probably because the people who were here when the wing came down earlier started attacking it like when the boss got its body broken. So we were living here and doing both wings at full HP. And this is the reason why it's so hard to break the wings, because nobody is actually doing the mechanic correctly in our party. So these were, I'd say, the two biggest reasons why we had so much trouble. We just weren't focusing on the attack buff stacks, and we weren't focusing on actually attacking the wings whenever it gave us an opportunity to do so. And also, don't just take it from me on how important attacking the wings are outside of this down state is. Take it from ATK, right? He says this.
Additionally, my number one tip on this criteria is to memorize this normal pattern. Behemoth will raise its wing and slam the ground. The opposite wing will be rooted and it will show you a weakness spot. The faster everyone reacts to this pattern, you can carve out some of the wing's HP. If you're lucky, you can even pre-destroy the wing before the body destruction.
See, and again, if you look at his party, they went from the left wing and then the right wing came down and nobody went anywhere else. Nobody was like, I'm going to prioritize back attack. I'm going to prioritize this. They all prioritized the wings. And I feel like this was something that our party really just wasn't doing. On top of that, it's actually really hard to realize when the wings are going to come down, right? When you break the body, the wings are going to come down for this big DPS window that you need to break both wings. The only way to really figure out how and when this is going to happen is by hovering your mouse over the body to see what percent HP it's at. And at some point, we actually had somebody calling out, hey, the body's at 80%. We're going to go and hit the wing soon. And then we saved our burst for this. This was really important, right? For any of the Sorks, any of the Soul Eaters, any of these big burst classes, you want to save your burst for the wings. On top of that, also using Atros and Darks. I feel like, from what I've heard in the pugs, a lot of people are El Cheapo. They don't use Atros or Darks during these wing phases. And that is definitely not good. You should 100% treat these wings kind of like the Echidna Clash when the snakes are coming down. You should 100% Atro and Dark during this phase so you can break both wings and hit the head. Because that is going to be where you're going to get most of your mileage at. Now, the next thing definitely has to do with counters, especially when the head is broken. If you look at this, right, we look at what happens here. They counter the boss. It goes from 470 bars down to, let's see, that's 10 bars, that's 20 bars, that's basically 30 bars of damage from that down phase. Again, Korea is quite a bit stronger than us, so that bar is going to go down a lot faster than us. But I'd say we probably can get it at least 15, 20 bars down with our current level of gearing. So again, these are things that my party just wasn't doing. And I think that if we take advantage of these things, we just would have been pumping out a lot more damage, phasing the boss more, and making it an easier fight overall. And lastly, I think that overall, we need to understand where the damage windows are. Like, yes, we should be keeping uptime on the boss whenever we can, but I do also think that there is a huge importance in not just Unga Bungaing the boss and really taking advantage of the windows that we have and not worry too much about uptime, which ATK also says right here.
Should always be used during Ren's hidden attack at the last phase. My general tip is to not worry about uptime too much. The boss will always give you DPS push times throughout the fight. Make sure to know your proper cycles and have darks and buffs in place during these chances.
Yeah, so I think that people put too much of an emphasis on having high uptime, which is, it's not surprising because all the other raids have taught us to just keep going, keep uptime, right? But I do think, especially during prog time, during Behemoth, rather than worrying about your uptime too much, of course, you still want to hit the boss, right? You really focus on these moments where we get damage windows, especially on the head, and that's really where we should be putting the majority of our attention on. Dodging attacks, making sure we're getting up our stacks, hitting the wings, and then when the head goes down, that is when you burst and do ginormous damage. And I think this also leads to one of the main attack patterns that people die to, which is the wing attack pattern after 190 when he knocks you out. This attack pattern right here, right? He slams one wing to one side, then he does kind of like a big old flip to the other side and knocks people out. So ATK tells you to go and stand near the head. Personally, I think basically the entirety of the front of the boss is safe during this, and pretty much the entirety of the back is not. So, in general, just go to the front of the boss for this attack and don't stay near the back. Again, I know people want to keep uptime, but really, you'd rather not die from this attack than keep uptime. Because honestly, there really is almost no DPS check in this gate if you're doing everything correctly. The wings, again, are a bit of a DPS check, but if you are able to hit those wings when they're down on the ground before you stagger the boss from breaking his body, you're going to be able to get the wings down to, 75% HP left, 50% HP up, making those windows a lot easier and having less of a DPS check there. And for just the rest of the fight, I'd say there really is almost zero DPS check. Not almost zero, but there's, what I'm saying. There's really not much, right? And then if we're talking about attack patterns, since we're here, I want to also talk about the wave pattern because this is something that a lot of people ended up dying to in our party as well. And it's just like these videos say, just stick behind the waves. So if you see a wave coming through, let's say it's this one up here, go behind it because there won't be another wave for a while. You go behind it and then you go behind the next wave and you just basically go behind the waves that pass. And if you do that, you'll be able to avoid these attacks very, very well. So that about wraps it up for this video. It's not supposed to be like any super in-depth type of video. It really is just looking at the issues that I faced in my party and would probably venture to guess that you're probably facing these issues in your pugs as well. And I think if we're able to actually play and do the raid correctly, which I think the majority of us aren't guilty, right? I think that we'll all clear Behemoth a lot easier and we'll find that, it's not actually that hard of a raid. So there we go, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and let me know if it helped you guys down in the comment section below. And as always, if you did, please remember to hit the like button, hit the sub button, ring the bell with notifications, and also I stream every single day on twitch.tv/MisoXshiro, and I really would appreciate seeing you guys there. So hopefully I see y'all on my stream, but if you can't make it for one reason or another, that's totally fine, and I will see y'all on the next video. All right, guys, peace out.